We all want to be heard, yet true influence feels just out of reach. A Roman emperor once wrote that the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. This simple truth from Marcus Aurelius reveals a profound secret about why people listen to you. It is not about clever techniques or forceful arguments. It is about the unseen social patterns born from a calm and virtuous character. By the end of this, you will understand the 21 Stoic principles that make your presence naturally magnetic. We will uncover why some people command attention without saying a word, and how your inner world directly shapes your external influence. What is the one quality you believe makes someone truly worth listening to? That profound inner stability is the first unseen pattern of influence. The most compelling presence often comes not from what you say, but from a place of unshakable calm at your very center. The Stoics called this your inner citadel, a fortress of mind built to withstand the chaos of external events. When your internal world is fortified, you stop being tossed about by every shifting opinion or minor crisis. This creates a magnetic aura of reliability. People are instinctively drawn to those who appear solid and trustworthy, especially when everything else feels uncertain. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his private meditations that the soul becomes the color of its own thoughts. He meant that our inner judgments and principles, not outside events, ultimately define our experience. Your inner citadel is built from these very judgments. It is the quiet confidence that comes from knowing your values are not for sale. Picture a high-stakes meeting where tensions are rising. Voices are raised and fingers are being pointed. In the center of this storm sits one person who remains perfectly composed. They listen carefully, respond thoughtfully, and refuse to be baited into anger. Their calm is not passive, it is a powerful, active force that commands the room's attention. Without a single demand, people begin to quiet down and turn to them, waiting for their perspective. Their influence grows not from what they are saying in that moment, but from the unshakable composure they are demonstrating. Can you recall a time when you witnessed someone's complete calm in a crisis? Their lack of panic was likely more persuasive than any argument they could have made. What if the key to being heard wasn't about talking more, but thinking more clearly? This is the heart of the second unseen pattern, the discipline of assent. The Stoics believed we are constantly bombarded by raw impressions of the world around us. A colleague's sharp email, a friend's cancelled plan, a sudden change in your schedule. Your initial, automatic judgment of these events is what the Stoics call giving your assent. You are essentially approving a first draft of reality, often written by your emotions. The person who masters their assent does not immediately accept that draft. They pause, they question the initial story their mind is telling them. The philosopher Epictetus taught that people are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them. Your frustration does not come from the email itself, but from your instant judgment that it was a personal attack. Your disappointment does not come from the cancelled plan, but from your immediate interpretation that you are not valued. When you learn to withhold your automatic assent, you create a small space between the event and your reaction. In that space, your power resides. Consider a common workplace conflict. Two team members have a heated disagreement in a meeting. One person immediately assents to the impression that they are being disrespected. Their face flushes, their voice rises, and they launch into a defensive counterattack. The other person feels the same initial sting, the same surge of anger, but they practice the discipline of assent. They pause internally. They ask themselves, is this truly an insult, or is my colleague just stressed and communicating poorly? By withholding their immediate judgment, they choose a different response. They might say, "I want to make sure I understand your concern correctly. Can you help me see it from your perspective?" This deliberate, thoughtful reply de-escalates the entire situation. It commands a different kind of respect, one born from self-control and clarity. People listen to this person not because they are the loudest, but because they demonstrate a mastery over their own internal world. They prove they are not a slave to their first impressions. Can you recall one recent reaction of yours, perhaps a flash of anger or a moment of anxiety, that you might have paused to reassess? What different story could you have told yourself in that crucial space between the event and your response? In a world of constant noise, the most powerful statement is sometimes silence. This is the third unseen pattern of influence, the art of intentional silence. The Stoics prized the ability to listen and observe far more than the urge to constantly speak. They understood that a quiet mind absorbs the world, while a chattering one only broadcasts its own static. Your silence is not an empty space. It is a vessel for understanding, a tool that demonstrates immense self-control and invites others to fill the space with their own thoughts. The Roman philosopher Seneca wrote extensively on the virtue of saying only what is necessary. He warned against the torrent of idle talk that so many mistake for conversation. True speech, he believed, should be weighed and measured, not spilled out carelessly. When you choose your words with this level of intention, each one carries more weight. People begin to lean in when you speak because they know your silence has been purposeful and your words will be meaningful. Imagine you are in a discussion and you ask a profound, open-ended question. Instead of rushing to fill the ensuing quiet, you let the silence hang in the air. You maintain a calm, attentive presence. This silence is not awkward, it is generative. It gives the other person the psychological space to process their thoughts more deeply, to reach for an insight they might not have found if you had immediately jumped in with your own opinion. In that quiet, you are communicating that their perspective is valuable enough to wait for. This simple act builds tremendous trust and respect. Can you recall a recent conversation where you made the conscious choice to speak less and listen more? What hidden nuance or unspoken truth did you discover simply by allowing the silence to exist? Character is the ultimate foundation of influence, far more potent than any surface-level charisma. People are drawn to those with a clear moral compass, not out of obligation, but because true integrity is a rare and magnetic force. The Stoics identified 4 cardinal virtues that form this unshakable character. Wisdom is the ability to navigate complex situations with clear judgment. Courage is the strength to act rightly even when it is difficult. Justice is treating every person with fairness and respect. And temperance is the self-control to manage your desires and impulses. When you embody these qualities, you are not just following a set of rules. You are broadcasting a signal of profound reliability. Epictetus beautifully captured this when he said that a good character is the only guarantee of everlasting, carefree happiness. He was pointing to the deep, organic trust that forms around a person who is genuinely good. Think of a team leader who has just realized a project is failing because of a miscalculation they made. The easy path would be to blame external factors or remain silent, but a leader grounded in virtue chooses the harder, more courageous path. They call a meeting and state plainly, "I made an error in my initial plan. It has set us back and I take full responsibility." In that moment of raw honesty, something remarkable happens. The team does not lose respect. Instead, their trust in the leader deepens. They see courage in the admission, justice in accepting blame, and wisdom in acknowledging the truth to find a better solution. They listen more intently to this leader's next words because their character has proven trustworthy. Which of the four virtues, wisdom, courage, justice, or temperance, could you strengthen today to become a more trustworthy presence in your conversations? Seeing things as they are, not worse than they are, is a superpower in communication. This is the fourth unseen pattern, the practice of objective judgment. It is the disciplined act of stripping away the emotional layers we instinctively add to every situation. When you master this, you stop seeing monsters in the shadows and start seeing the actual objects casting them. Your perspective becomes clearer, more accurate, and infinitely more valuable to others who are still lost in their own fearful interpretations. Marcus Aurelius advised himself to strip away the legend that encrusts an event. He meant we must peel back the story we tell ourselves, the drama of insult or catastrophe, and look only at the plain, unvarnished facts. A project deadline is moved. That is the fact. The story we tell ourselves is that our manager is unhappy with us or that we are failing. A friend does not return your call. That is the fact. The story is that they are angry or that the friendship is over. Your power lies in learning to dwell only in the realm of fact. Imagine a business owner facing a sudden drop in monthly revenue. The initial, emotionally biased judgment might scream, "This is a disaster. We are going to fail." Panic sets in, leading to frantic, poorly thought-out decisions. But the owner who practices objective judgment pauses. They strip away the legend. The objective fact is that revenue decreased by 15% this month. They then calmly assess the possible causes. Was there a seasonal shift? Did a competitor launch a new product? Was there an issue with our service? By focusing on the facts, they can formulate a calm, strategic response. They call their team together not with alarm, but with a clear-eyed assessment of the situation. In that room, their rational perspective becomes an anchor. People naturally gravitate toward this calm clarity because it feels like solid ground in a swirling sea of uncertainty. They listen because this person provides what everyone secretly craves, a view of reality undistorted by fear. What is one current worry you have? Practice stripping away the story right now. Reduce it to its bare, objective facts. What remains when you remove the legend of catastrophe you have built around it? What if you could rise above the daily drama and see the bigger picture? The Stoics developed a powerful mental exercise for this very purpose, known as the view from above. It is the practice of mentally zooming out far beyond the confines of your immediate problem to see your life within the grand scale of the cosmos. This shift in perspective does not make your problems vanish, but it reveals their true, often diminished size. It drains the pettiness from conflicts and replaces it with a profound sense of calm wisdom. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself of the vastness of time and the universe to humble his personal concerns. He wrote, "Remember how many doctors have died after knitting their brows over their patients. How many astrologers after predicting the deaths of others? How many philosophers after endless disquisitions on death and immortality?" He was pulling the camera back to its widest possible lens, observing the endless cycle of life and death. In that immense frame, his own anxieties about reputation or a bad day began to look like tiny specks of dust on a vast timeline. This is not about diminishing your life's importance, but about understanding its proper proportion. Imagine a heated argument with a family member over something trivial, like a forgotten chore or a careless comment. In the moment, the emotion feels all-consuming. Your ego is engaged and you feel the need to be right. Now, apply the view from above. See the two of you not just as individuals in a room, but as tiny parts of a vast family lineage, on a planet spinning in a remote corner of a galaxy among billions. From this vantage point, does the forgotten chore still warrant the same level of anger? The core issue of needing cooperation might remain, but the ego-driven heat around it dissipates. You can then address the real need without the blinding filter of pride, speaking from a place of calm clarity that naturally encourages the other person to listen. Your words carry the weight of perspective, not the fragility of offense. Think of a current frustration that feels large and immediate in your life. For a moment, try this exercise. Mentally zoom out. See your street from above, then your city, then the continent, then the whole earth as a pale blue dot. How does the perceived size and weight of that problem change when viewed from such a cosmic distance? Comfort can be a beautiful cage, one that slowly weakens our capacity to handle the unexpected. The Stoics discovered a radical key to escaping this trap, the power of voluntary discomfort. This is the sixth unseen pattern of influence. By willingly embracing small, manageable hardships, you build a deep reservoir of resilience that makes you a source of strength and calm for others when real crises strike. The philosopher Seneca explored this idea with striking clarity. He advised his friend Lucilius to periodically practice poverty. Set aside a certain number of days, he wrote, during which you will be content with the scantiest and cheapest of food. This was not about self-punishment. It was a training exercise for the soul. By consciously experiencing a small loss, you prove to yourself that you can endure it. You drain the fear from potential future hardships, building an inner confidence that cannot be shaken by external circumstances. Imagine a leader who intentionally chooses small discomforts in their daily life. They might take a cold shower in the morning, not for some health trend, but as a deliberate exercise in self-mastery. They might occasionally skip a meal or walk instead of drive. Each time they do this, they are sending a powerful message to their own mind. I am in control, not my comforts. Now picture that leader facing a genuine business crisis, a sudden financial loss. While others panic, their pulse remains steady. They have already faced the sensation of lack and proven they can handle it. Their calm is not an act, it is a practiced reality. The team looks to them and sees not panic but composed determination. They listen because this person embodies a stability that has been forged, not found. What is one small comfort you rely on? Perhaps that second cup of coffee, the constant warmth of your home, or the endless scroll through your phone. Could you voluntarily give it up for just one day this week, not as a punishment, but as a quiet exercise in building your own unshakable core? What if you could not just accept your challenges, but love them? This question lies at the heart of the seventh unseen pattern, a principle known as amor fati, the love of one's fate. It is a radical shift from merely enduring what life throws at you to actively embracing it as a necessary and even welcome part of your journey. When you adopt this stance, you stop fighting the current of reality and start swimming with it, projecting a sense of purpose and acceptance that is profoundly magnetic to others. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote a simple command to himself that captures this spirit. A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it. He was teaching himself to be that fire, to transform every obstacle, every setback into fuel for his own inner light. This is not passive resignation. It is an active, empowering choice to see every event as material for your growth. Think of a team leader whose ambitious project has just failed spectacularly. The conventional response might be to downplay the failure, assign blame, or sink into disappointment. But a leader who practices amor fati stands before their team with a different energy entirely. They say, "This did not work out the way we hoped, and I love that it didn't. It has shown us a flaw in our approach we were blind to. It has given us a lesson we could not have learned any other way." This reframing is electrifying. It transforms a narrative of defeat into one of discovery. The team, instead of feeling demoralized, feels energized by this perspective. They see a leader who is not broken by circumstance but forged by it. They listen more intently because this person is offering a superpower, the ability to find gold in the mud of failure. Can you identify one recent difficulty in your own life, a frustration or a setback? For a moment, try to reframe it not as a curse but as a necessary gift. What specific lesson did it bring you that easier success never could have taught? The quickest way to lose an audience is to try and control them. This desperate reach for external power is the very thing that makes your words feel weak and manipulative. The Stoics offer a profound alternative, the eighth unseen pattern, the dichotomy of control. It is the simple, radical act of sorting every single thing in your life into two categories: what is up to you and what is not. Your own opinions, your desires, your aversions, your judgments, these are entirely within your power. The opinions of others, their actions, their past decisions, the final outcome of any situation, these are not. When you pour your energy into the second category, you are fighting a battle you can never win. You become frustrated, anxious, and your communication becomes a tool of coercion. But when you focus only on what is truly yours to command, your words transform. They become clear, focused, and potent because they are rooted in your own authentic reasoning, not in a futile attempt to command the world around you. Epictetus begins his entire Enchiridion with this foundational truth. Some things are within our power, he wrote, while others are not. Within our power are opinion, motivation, desire, aversion. Not within our power are our body, our property, our reputation, our command. He was building an unshakable inner fortress by defining its exact borders. Your influence grows when you stop trying to manage the territory outside those walls. Imagine a crucial meeting where you need to persuade a skeptical colleague. The common approach is to focus on the external, to try and control their mind, to force them to see things your way. You might talk faster, louder, or become agitated if they resist. This feels like effort, but it is a drain on your power. The Stoic approach is to turn your focus inward. You prepare by clarifying your own well-reasoned position. You enter the room and state it with calm conviction. You listen to their objections not as attacks to be defeated, but as information to be understood. Your entire effort is on fulfilling your own role with excellence, speaking with honesty and logic. You release any attachment to their final agreement. This shift is transformative. The other person feels no pressure from you, only the weight of your reasoned argument. They are more likely to listen because your energy is not focused on controlling them, but on expressing your own truth with integrity. This makes your presence not just persuasive, but trustworthy. Think of a current conversation you are having, perhaps a difficult one with a partner or a manager. What one thing are you desperately trying to control about their reaction or their opinion that is ultimately not yours to command? What would happen if you released that burden and focused only on expressing your own position with clarity and virtue? The most flattering question you can ask another person is not about them, but for you. It is a question born from a genuine desire to understand their perspective, simply because you value the expansion of your own understanding. This sincere curiosity is the ninth unseen pattern of influence. It is a direct expression of the Stoic pursuit of wisdom, a lifelong commitment to learning that transforms every single person you meet into a potential teacher. You move through the world not as a knower but as a learner, and this humble posture makes others feel profoundly valued and heard. Seneca wrote passionately about this in his letters, urging his friend to seek wisdom from all corners. Associate with those who will improve you, he advised, and welcome those whom you yourself can improve. The process is mutual. He was pointing to the fertile ground of every human interaction. When you approach someone with the mindset that they possess a unique piece of the puzzle of life, you grant them immense dignity. Your curiosity becomes a form of respect. Imagine entering a conversation with a colleague you rarely speak to, perhaps someone from a different department. Instead of defaulting to whether talk or office gossip, you set a simple, private intention. My only goal here is to learn one new thing from this person. You ask a question that stems from real curiosity. What part of your work challenges you the most, or what is something you've learned recently that surprised you? Your energy shifts completely. You are no longer waiting for your turn to talk. You are actively listening, your focus entirely on their response. The other person senses this shift. They feel the space you are holding for them, and they will often open up in ways that are surprising and insightful. They leave the conversation feeling lighter, more respected, and they will remember you as someone who truly listens. Can you recall a recent conversation where you felt completely heard? What was it that the other person did? Chances are they were not just silent while you spoke. They were actively curious, asking questions that showed they were following your thoughts and genuinely wanted to understand your world. What if criticism wasn't an attack but free data? This perspective is the 10th unseen pattern of influence. The Stoic practice of impersonalizing criticism allows you to receive feedback without the sting of personal offense. You learn to see the words not as a verdict on your soul, but as raw information about another person's perspective. When you can do this, you project a security and wisdom that is incredibly compelling. People are drawn to those who can handle negative feedback with grace because it signals a deep and unshakable self-worth. Marcus Aurelius offered a powerful lens for this. When you wake up in the morning, he told himself, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. They are like this because they cannot tell good from evil. He was not being cynical. He was preparing his mind to see their actions, including their criticisms, as a product of their own internal state and limited understanding, not a reflection of his inherent value. This detachment is your greatest shield and your sharpest tool. Imagine your manager pulls you aside after a presentation and says, your section felt rushed and unprepared. It let the whole team down. The immediate personal interpretation is a wave of shame and defensiveness. You feel attacked, your character feels assaulted. The Stoic response begins with a mental pivot. You consciously impersonalize the comment. You strip it of its emotional charge and look only at the data. The data point is, my manager perceived my section as rushed and unprepared. Whether that perception is entirely accurate or not, it is now a fact you can work with. Instead of reacting defensively, you respond with calm curiosity. You might say, thank you for that feedback. To help me improve, could you specify which parts felt rushed to you? This single question transforms the entire dynamic. It moves the conversation from a personal conflict to a collaborative problem-solving session. Your manager sees someone who is secure enough to hear hard truths and wise enough to use them for growth. Your influence soars because you have demonstrated that your commitment to improvement is greater than your attachment to being right. Think of a recent criticism you received, perhaps from a partner or a colleague. Set aside the emotion for a moment and look only at the raw data. What is one single, actionable piece of information it contained, separate from the tone or the sting? The greatest gift you can give someone is your full, undivided attention. In a world of endless distractions, this simple act is a profound signal of respect, and it forms the 11th unseen pattern of influence, present moment awareness in dialogue. The Stoics cultivated a quality they called prosoch, a vigilant mindfulness directed entirely at the current moment and the task before you. In the context of conversation, that task is the person speaking to you. This is not passive hearing. It is an active, disciplined focus that ensures your responses are not pre-scripted reactions, but genuinely relevant contributions. Epictetus taught that we must concentrate every faculty like a rope on the attainment of our goals, and no goal is more immediate in dialogue than true understanding. When you bring this level of focus to a discussion, you are not just collecting information, you are honoring the speaker. Think about the common experience of speaking with someone whose eyes are subtly glazed over. You can feel them formulating their reply while you are still mid-sentence. Their responses often miss the mark because they were built from a fragment of what you said, not the whole of it. This is listening to reply. Now, contrast that with a conversation where the other person is fully anchored in the present with you. Their phone is away, their gaze is steady, and their follow-up questions build directly on your last point. They are listening to understand. The impact is transformative. You feel seen, you feel heard, and your trust in that person deepens instantly. Their subsequent advice or perspective carries immense weight because it is so clearly rooted in a complete and accurate picture of what you shared. Your challenge is to have one single conversation today where you make a conscious commitment to this practice. Put your phone in another room. Quiet the internal monologue planning your grocery list. Anchor your entire awareness on the person in front of you, listening only to understand their world. Notice how the quality of that interaction shifts, and observe the different level of influence you naturally command when your attention is a gift, not an afterthought. Kindness is a strategic application of our shared human reason, not a sentimental weakness. The Stoics built their entire philosophy of human connection on a powerful principle called oikeiosis, which is the recognition of our fundamental affinity with all other people. We are social creatures by nature, designed for cooperation in the same way bees are designed to work within a hive. To act against this nature, to be cruel or indifferent, is therefore irrational. It is a violation of our own design. Kindness becomes a logical duty, a consistent attractor because it aligns our actions with the fundamental truth of who and what we are. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations that we were born for fellowship, and that to act against one another is contrary to nature. He was not issuing a moral plea, but stating a fact of human existence. When you are kind, you are simply acting in accordance with this rational design, and that consistency creates a magnetic pull. Think of the simple act of holding a door open for a stranger whose hands are full. This is not a grand gesture, but it is a moment of pure, rational cooperation. You have seen a fellow human in a moment of minor difficulty, and you have used your own capacity to ease their path. The ripple effect is subtle but profound. The person feels seen and assisted. They are more likely to carry that slightly lighter feeling forward into their next interaction. And crucially, they perceive you not as someone seeking praise, but as a person operating from a default setting of cooperation. This builds a foundation of trust that makes people more receptive to your words and ideas. Your challenge today is to perform one small, unexpected act of kindness. It could be a genuine compliment to a colleague, letting someone merge in traffic with a wave, or simply listening without interruption. Observe the reaction you receive, not for the praise, but for the subtle shift in the social atmosphere it creates. Chaos doesn't create leaders, it reveals them. When a genuine crisis hits, the social masks fall away, and you see the true character of everyone in the room. The person who has practiced Stoic principles in the quiet moments is the one who naturally steps into the leadership vacuum, not by demanding authority, but by embodying a calm that others desperately need. This is the 12th unseen pattern, modeling equanimity under pressure. Your preparation for adversity is what allows you to remain focused on solutions when everyone else is consumed by the problem. Seneca explored this idea in his essay on the firmness of the wise person, arguing that a sage is not disturbed by external turmoil because their happiness is not derived from things that can be taken away. They are like a deep, still lake. A storm may rage on the surface, but the depths remain undisturbed. This inner stillness is not indifference, it is the very source of effective action. Consider a company facing a sudden public relations crisis. A damaging news story breaks, and the office is instantly filled with panic. Employees are huddled in groups, voices are raised in alarm, and the primary impulse is to find someone to blame. The CEO calls an emergency meeting. While others enter the room with frantic energy, the CEO's posture is calm, their expression focused. They do not dismiss the severity of the situation, but they refuse to be swept into the emotional current. They begin not by asking who is at fault, but by stating the objective facts of the crisis. Then they pivot immediately to the only question that matters: what is within our power to do right now? They outline a clear, step-by-step response plan, assigning roles based on logic, not fear. Their steady presence acts as a psychological anchor for the entire organization. People stop panicking and start working because their leader has modeled a rational path forward. This calm is contagious, and it makes people listen because in the midst of chaos, a clear head is the most valuable compass. Take a moment to visualize a potential future crisis in your own life, perhaps a financial setback or a serious family disagreement. How would your response change if you approached it not as a personal catastrophe, but as a practical problem to be solved with the same calm determination you would use to fix a broken appliance? The more you say, the less each of your words is actually worth. This 13th unseen pattern, the economy of words, is a direct application of Stoic discipline to your speech. The ancient Stoics valued brevity not as a stylistic choice, but as a moral virtue. Unnecessary talk was seen as a form of intemperance, a lack of control over one of our most powerful faculties. When you prune away the excess, you are forced to find the precise, potent core of your message. Seneca captured this perfectly when he wrote that speech which is long and rambling is most easily forgotten. Incoherent talk cannot stick in the mind. He argued that our words should be compact and compelling, so they can wedge themselves firmly into the listener's memory. Every extra syllable you add dilutes the power of the ones that truly matter. Consider the impact of two different emails delivering the same basic request. The first is a long, winding paragraph filled with justifications, pleasantries, and vague language. It asks for a report while also explaining the history of the request, apologizing for the inconvenience, and speculating on potential difficulties. The recipient has to sift through all that noise to find the actual request. The second email is starkly different. It is 3 crisp sentences. It states the specific report needed, the clear reason it is required, and the firm deadline. There is no filler. Which message carries more authority? Which one will the recipient take more seriously and remember more clearly? The concise message communicates an unspoken confidence. It says the speaker values their own time and, by extension, values the time of the person they are addressing. This economy builds trust and ensures your core message is not just heard but retained. Take a moment to look back at a recent message you sent, perhaps a text or an email. Read it over with a Stoic's eye for excess. Challenge yourself to cut its length in half without losing any of the essential meaning. What remains when you strip away everything superfluous? What if worrying productively could make you unshakable? This is the promise of the 14th unseen pattern. the Stoic practice of Premeditatio Malorum, or the Premeditation of Evils. Far from being a pessimistic exercise, this is a disciplined form of mental preparation. You systematically envision potential setbacks, not to dwell on fear, but to disarm it. By walking through the worst-case scenarios in your mind, you strip them of their surprise and emotional power, transforming yourself into a prepared and deeply reassuring presence. Seneca explicitly advised his friend to practice this, urging him to spend a few days each month in poverty, with scanty food and rough clothing. He was not encouraging despair, but writing a mental inoculation. The goal, he explained, is to send yourself into exile, into poverty, into death in your imagination. By doing so, you realize that none of these outcomes are the end of your capacity to act with virtue. You prove to yourself in advance that you can endure them. This knowledge builds a foundation of confidence that is immune to the minor shocks of daily life. Imagine you have a critical presentation to deliver. The common approach is to hope for the best, to visualize a flawless performance and a round of applause. But hope is not a strategy. Instead, you sit down the day before and deliberately premeditate the malorum. You visualize the projector failing. You see yourself calmly stating you have printed copies for everyone. You imagine a key stakeholder interrupting with a sharp, challenging question. You mentally rehearse a respectful, data-driven response. You even picture yourself stumbling over your words and then pausing, taking a breath, and continuing with composure. When you walk into that room, you are not carrying the fragile hope that nothing goes wrong. You are carrying the quiet certainty that you are prepared for anything that does. This preparation allows you to speak with a grounded confidence that others can feel. They trust your presence because you are not thrown by the unexpected. You have already lived through it in your mind and emerged unbroken. Choose one upcoming challenge you are facing, a difficult conversation or an important task. Take 5 minutes to premeditate its potential difficulties. What is the worst that could reasonably happen? Now, script your calm, virtuous response. How does simply knowing that plan change your feeling of readiness right now? Your most persuasive message is the one you live without saying a word. This is the 15th unseen pattern of influence, the integrity of action alignment. The Stoics insisted that philosophy is not a clever set of arguments to be debated, but a concrete way of being to be embodied. Your credibility is not built on the elegance of your speech, but on the unbroken chain between what you say and what you do. When these two forces are in perfect harmony, you generate a trust that is beyond question, a silent authority that makes people lean in to listen because they know your words are backed by the full weight of your character. Epictetus was characteristically blunt on this point. He said, "If you didn't learn these things in order to demonstrate them in practice, what did you learn them for?" He was scolding those who would treat wisdom as a parlor trick, a set of quotes to be trotted out while their own lives remained unchanged. A true philosopher, he argued, is known by their actions, not their arguments. Their life is their proof. Consider a manager who consistently preaches the importance of work-life balance to their team. They talk about the dangers of burnout and the value of disconnecting. But then, this same manager is always the last one to leave the office, sends emails late into the night, and praises those who sacrifice their personal time. Their team hears the words, but they see the actions. The contradiction creates a silent friction that erodes trust and makes every future speech feel hollow. Now picture the alternative, a manager who speaks about balance and is also the first to leave on time to attend their child's recital. They do not send emails after hours, and they genuinely respect time off. Their actions are a loud, continuous endorsement of their stated values. The team does not just hear the message, they witness it. They trust this leader implicitly because the leader's life is the evidence. Their words carry immense power because they are a simple narration of a reality everyone can already see. Can you identify one area in your own life, perhaps a value you often speak about, where your daily actions might be subtly out of alignment? That small gap is where your silent credibility is leaking. Every person you meet is fighting a hard battle you know nothing about. This simple truth is the foundation of the 16th unseen pattern of influence, the practice of suspending judgment. When you automatically label someone as rude, lazy, or difficult, you are closing a door. You are deciding you already understand their entire story based on a single, fleeting chapter. The Stoics understood that this rush to judgment is a failure of wisdom, a choice to live in a simplified and often incorrect version of reality. Your true power in communication grows when you replace that instant label with a question. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself to get to the bottom of what people's actions really mean. He wrote, "When people injure you, ask yourself what good or harm they thought would come of it." If you understand that, you'll feel sympathy rather than outrage. He was training himself to see the cause behind the effect, the hidden logic that drives every human behavior, even the destructive ones. This is not about excusing poor behavior, but about understanding its source. That understanding gives you the clarity to respond effectively, rather than just reacting emotionally. Imagine your colleague snaps at you in a meeting, dismissing your idea with a sharp, uncharacteristic comment. The automatic judgment is to feel insulted, to decide they are being a jerk, and to either retaliate or retreat. But what if you paused and applied this Stoic lens? You would withhold your immediate assent to that story of malice. Instead, you might consider that they are under immense pressure from a project you know nothing about. Perhaps they received terrible personal news that morning. Their sharpness is far more likely a symptom of their own internal pain than a genuine critique of your character. When you approach them later, your energy is completely different. Instead of a confrontation, you might say, "You seemed really stressed in that meeting. Is everything okay?" This question, born from suspended judgment, opens a door to genuine connection. It often diffuses the entire conflict and transforms a potential enemy into an ally. They feel seen in their struggle, not attacked for their behavior, and their willingness to listen to you in return increases exponentially. Think of someone you recently judged negatively, perhaps a distracted cashier or an impatient driver. For a moment, set that story aside. What is one generous, or at least neutral, explanation you could invent for their behavior? How does simply holding that possibility in your mind change your feeling toward them? Being swayed by a compliment reveals the same fragile core as being broken by an insult. Both are external forces acting upon you, and your reaction to them shows just how much of your self-worth you have outsourced to the world. This is the 17th unseen pattern, the grace of accepting praise and blame with equal indifference. The Stoic sage understands that their true worth is measured only by the integrity of their own choices, making the applause or hisses of the crowd utterly irrelevant to their inner scorecard. Your character is the only currency that matters, and it is minted entirely within. Epictetus offered a devastatingly simple test for this. He said, "If anyone tells you that a certain person speaks ill of you, do not make excuses about what is said, but answer, 'He was ignorant of my other faults, else he would not have mentioned these alone.'" This is not about self-deprecation, but about a profound reorientation of value. You are placing the judgment of your own virtue so far above the judgment of others that their criticism or their praise simply fails to register as a meaningful event. It is just noise. Consider a celebrated artist who has just won a major award. The room is filled with thunderous applause and glowing reviews. A person dependent on externals would be intoxicated, their ego swelling with every compliment. But the sage, the artist grounded in Stoic principle, accepts the award with a quiet thank you. They feel the same inner calm they felt the day before the award was announced, and the same calm they will feel tomorrow when a critic publishes a scathing review of their very same work. They know the work itself was the virtuous action, the focused application of their craft. The award is an external, a pleasant circumstance, but it does not change the fundamental goodness of the effort. This unwavering self-possession is incredibly compelling. People see someone who is not desperate for their approval, and paradoxically, they grant even more respect. The artist's words carry weight because they are spoken from a place of complete inner freedom. Think back to the last meaningful piece of praise you received. Can you practice accepting its warmth without letting it attach to your identity? Can you see it as a pleasant event that occurred, while your true value remained constant and unchangeable, rooted in the effort you gave, not the reward you received? The work itself is the reward. This principle forms the 18th unseen pattern of influence, a focus on contribution over recognition. When your primary drive shifts from seeking external validation to performing your duty with quiet excellence, you cultivate a reputation for selfless competence that speaks louder than any self-promotion. You become a source of pure, undiluted value, and people are magnetically drawn to that kind of integrity. The Stoics called this focusing on the action, not the fruit of the action. Your control lies entirely in the quality of your effort, in the virtue you bring to the task itself. The outcome, the applause, the credit, these are externals that may or may not come, and to hinge your satisfaction on them is to build your house on sand. Marcus Aurelius wrote a powerful reminder to himself on this very point. He said, "Find joy in the activity itself, not in the praise that may follow." Stop being a slave to the need for approval. He was training his mind to derive its fulfillment from the act of doing good work, a source of satisfaction that no one could ever take from him. This internal reward system creates a profound and quiet confidence. Imagine a mid-level employee who discovers a critical flaw in a major project, a flaw that could cost the company a significant client. The employee could make a show of it, scheduling a dramatic meeting to present the problem to senior leadership, ensuring everyone sees them as the hero. Instead, they choose the path of contribution. They quietly gather the necessary data, develop a clear solution, and work late to implement the fix with the relevant team members. The problem is resolved before it ever becomes a public crisis. When the department head later learns what happened, their respect for that employee deepens immeasurably. They see a person who is invested in the health of the whole organization, not in their own personal spotlight. This builds a form of trust that is far more durable and profound than the fleeting buzz of public praise. People listen to this individual because they know their advice is never tainted by a hidden agenda for recognition. Your challenge is to select one single task today, perhaps something mundane like drafting an email or organizing a workspace. Perform this task with your entire focus on the quality of the work itself. Pour your attention into making it as excellent as possible, and consciously release any thought of who might notice or what praise you might receive. Notice the quiet sense of accomplishment that arises from the action alone, a satisfaction that requires no audience. What if you could upgrade your social skills every single night? The Stoics perfected a simple habit for this very purpose, a daily ritual of self-examination they called their evening review. This is the 19th unseen pattern of influence, a practice that systematically sharpens your judgment and refines your character through quiet, consistent reflection. Each day becomes a live classroom, and you are both the student and the teacher. learning from your own actions to become a wiser, more effective presence in every interaction. Seneca wrote passionately about this practice in his work on anger, advising a nightly audit of the self. "Let sleep not come upon your weary eyes," he urged, "until you have reviewed every action of your day. What bad habit did you curb today? What fault did you resist?" In asking these questions, you are not dwelling on mistakes. You are actively programming your mind for better performance tomorrow. The goal is progress, not perfection, a steady honing of your ability to act with virtue. The method is beautifully straightforward. As your day winds down, find just 5 minutes of quiet. Ask yourself 3 simple questions. First, what is one thing I did well today? Perhaps you listened with full attention when a colleague was struggling, or you held your tongue in a moment of provocation. Acknowledge that small victory. Second, what is one thing I could have done better? Maybe you interrupted someone in your excitement, or you assented too quickly to a judgment of someone's character. Identify the specific moment without self-judgment. And third, what is the single most important lesson I learned today? This could be an insight about another person, a discovery about your own triggers, or a clearer understanding of what is truly within your control. This process transforms vague regret into precise, actionable data. Imagine you had a difficult conversation that ended poorly. Your evening review is not a session to beat yourself up. It is a strategic debrief. You might note that you did well in stating your position clearly. You could have done better by raising your voice when you felt frustrated. The lesson you learned is that taking one deep breath before responding helps you maintain a calm tone. This single insight becomes a tool you carry into your next conversation, making you more composed and therefore more influential. Your challenge is to try this 5-minute review for just 3 nights. Do not make it complicated. Simply ask the 3 questions and jot down a brief thought for each. Notice if you begin your next day with a slightly heightened awareness, a subtle shift in how you listen and how you choose your words. This quiet nightly investment pays compound interest in your social intelligence. Your voice finds its true power not in the words you choose, but in the character you cultivate. The 21 patterns we have explored are not a checklist of social tricks. They are the natural reflections of a soul ordered by Stoic virtue. Each one, from the unshakable inner citadel to the quiet dignity of an evening review, points back to a single, profound truth. True influence is an inside job. It is the magnetic result of a mind trained in resilience, a heart anchored in justice, and a will aligned with wisdom. The philosopher Epictetus offered the ultimate summary of this entire journey. He said, "Philosophy does not promise to secure anything external for man. Otherwise, it would be admitting something that lies beyond its proper subject matter. For as the material of the carpenter is wood, and that of sculpture bronze, the art of living has each person's own life as its material. Your life, your choices, your character, this is your primary material. The quality of this material determines everything, including how deeply the world listens to you. Your character, shaped by daily practice, inevitably shapes your entire existence and your capacity to guide others." As we conclude, I leave you with one simple, decisive question. Of all the principles we have walked through, which one will you choose to make your own starting today? Will it be the discipline of withholding your assent to a first impression, or the courageous practice of loving your fate? Your journey toward becoming a person worth listening to begins with a single, committed step. If you found value in exploring these timeless ideas, consider joining our community by subscribing. Together, we can continue applying this ancient wisdom to the beautiful complexity of modern life, fostering a space for continuous growth and mutual understanding.